Hey, what's going on, y'all? Hey, what's going on, y'all? Back with another one. Ah, the dollar conspiracy. The dollar conspiracy. I got a link for y'all. The dollar conspiracy. Everybody trying to say the dollar's gonna fall, right? That's some crazy shit. Hold on. Hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute. The dollar conspiracy. Yeah. But that's just what we're gonna get into. And I'm just gonna put it like this. It's not much. It's not much. It's not much. I think what we're gonna go in here, detail this. We're gonna put this in the world system, right? Yeah. We're gonna blot that out. Yeah. Yeah, it's already in commence. So let's see what we got here for a minute. Yeah. Make sure we don't clip. All right. Let's see what we got here. Yeah. Because the part one we talked about, I think Duke the Don and things like that. Yeah, this is nonprofit activism. Yeah, get this out of the way. Person watching, good, 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 good. Now, a lot of times when you look at things like this, I think normally when they talk about the dollar conspiracy, like what I talk about it is it gonna fall? What's gonna replace the dollar? And I have like a link to what's going on, and I'll read to y'all. And it's about the will the U.S. dollar lose its reserve status? And this is by Kathy Jones, by the Schwabs.com. And it's just a little question, things like that. And the nature of it, I think people just get so in the spectacle of thinking that it's going to lose its meaning, right? Well, the problem is you can't expect much when people lose the dollar, whatever, right? So you gotta understand we're not playing around. We're not playing around. When the conspiracy of the dollar, people try to say it's gonna fall because of the war over there and overseas and things like that. And that's just what it is. So yeah, man. Yeah. What's going on? So shalom. Oh, not a problem, man. Always, always, man. But the thing about the conspiracy with the dollar, I think we've been talking about this for like a while, and I think me and Cerulin talked about it this year, early this year, and then last year. Talk about it in several ideologies like totalitarianism, and then we talk about fascism. Then we talk about anarchism, what you see around the world. You see it in Russia. Russia's having uprising problems. Salute, Tampa. What's going on, man? And that's what it is. And that's just how it's going to be. And I think part of it is going to continue on further in the future. So when you talk about the conspiracy of the dollar, it really means something. So, I'll show you this link in a minute. Let me get my minutes in. So to make sure that people's coming through. I think the one thing is, since I'm sky watching, the Peep, whatever, got some nice shots for y'all for DTN number 5 that's coming up next week. So it's like Friday morning. I would say like the dust is done. I started early. I thought I was gonna start at 1. I said, nah, let me get this on the way. Well, the dollar is a very, very complicated subject, and it's very, very, very uh elusive with people terms what they're gonna replace it with. That's a big deal. Part one, we talked about everything. Yes, we talked about Putin, and we talked about the oligarchs is trying to get rid of them and things like that. We talked about various angles of the truth of that. Some people try to say, "Oh, they're winning over there," which is false. I mean, Zelensky and them guys is winning on the ground. See, the nukes don't matter. People can talk all that BS all they want to. It's not about that. And then you have to look at 2024 in the future. People can talk about it, trying to say we're wrong all the time. That's not true. If they do research and study war history, it's actually the opposite. That's why I argue with people about politics. They don't do research. They don't study ideologies like I do and break it down. It's the same shit I've seen all the time. That's why I argue with people about facts because they're dealing with opinions. I'm dealing with facts. I'm actually showing you Russia's no threat. China's no threat. They all trust in the dollar. Even though me and my father talk about this, and since he's an auditor and things like with money and things like that. So money fluctuates. And then you got the ones that the professional auditors will tell you it fluctuates over time. That's just how it is. And some people can't change the fact that it's going to go the way it's going to go. Right. And that's what you got to look at. You got to look at several things. And those people don't talk about it online. They just want to spew the rhetoric and try to say, oh, they're winning and all this other shit. And then it's the dollar's going to change. It never going to change because people trust in it. They're so brainwashed by the dollar. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only reason that I see it so many times that people are so brainwashed by it. See, the crypto thing, that's not real money. You gotta, it's precious metals and things like that. I think Duke the Don was saying that. Everybody was saying that. And that's true. You know, get out now, do what you and do and invest and take your time. This stuff is the reality that you're gonna see in long terms, in layman terms, what you're gonna see in the future. So I'm not expecting anybody to do anything different. And it's just a matter of time what's going to change, what's what, right? So that's it. We're going to get into the nitty gritty. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to read off something, and we're going to read this. I don't see if my screen's over here showing it. Okay. Yeah. I don't know if I can make it bigger. No, because that just takes me out of the shot. Okay. I don't know how the full layout. Nah, that's just taking me. Yeah, exit the full layout. They used to make it bigger. Okay. We're gonna get to this part. Okay. It says, will the US dollar lose its reserve status? Okay. We often ask if the US dollar will lose the status of the world's reserve currency. But investors are concerned that the Federal Reserve is easy monetary policy combined with rising budget deficits will undermine confidence in the dollar. But the recent drop in the dollar over the past year has heightened these concerns. But while we agree that there can be unforeseen consequences from the current policy mix, we believe the dollar's role as the dominant global currency looks secure. That's what they say, looks secure, what she's saying. Okay. What are reserve currencies? Well, reserve currencies are typically issued by large development countries with records of financial stability to be held in the reserve by a foreign central bank, which is true. And currencies typically needs to be freely convertible, not pegged by the government, have a large and liquid and debt market that the foreign investors can access. Having an independent central bank and be widely used in trade and global transactions. That's one part. And then and in addition to the US dollar, the euro and the Japanese yen and the British pound, Swiss franc, Australian dollar, and the Chinese renminbi are all held in reserve. However, the dollar is by far the most widely held currency at 60% based on 2020 data from the IMF. See, that's the problem. You got to get rid of all this shit if you want this thing to fall, but that ain't going to happen. You know, people trust into it. Foreign exchange holdings are percentages of total allocate in the United States dollars. Okay. But the United States dollar is also used almost 40% of the global trade, nearly 80% of all global trade, border transactions, most commodities, and many other goods are traded in US dollars, oil, copper, and agricultural goods. But to the name a few, investors and hold the dollars into the trade and the goods in the services, and need to have a large liquid bond market to then which and investors those dollars. I show you the graph right here, and they said most transactions in the U.S. dollars. Okay, let's see the graph they got up here. From 89 to 2019, so that would be approximately uh I will say 30 years around this chart. This is a 30-year chart, and expand and things like that nature. So that's what you see. But what about the alternatives? Over the years, the euro's usage in the global transaction has grown in Japanese yen, and usage has been largely stable, and three have been slight in increase into into like is in the okay in the remedies role. However, some however none of these currencies seem likely to supplant the dollar anytime soon. See, there you go, right there. That's the problem. People trust in it. Most likely, a candidate would be the euro, as the euro and represents a large segment of the global gross domestic product. However, it is bound markets are frightened across many different countries and are less liquid in the United States Treasury. The bond market, limiting the amount of the foreign investors might be able to hold in euros. China is believed to have an ambition to make its currency the preeminent reserve in currency, but it has a long way to go. Yeah, it's a long way to go. Yeah, people don't trust in the Chinese stuff. That's the problem. And the biggest limitation in the currency's value is managed. It isn't freely convertible to other currencies, as investors can't be sure whether capital controls could be used to limit access their holdings. So far it has very limited usage in global transactions, representing just 3% of the global transactions relative to about 80% for the dollar. I can tell you right there. So, and then you got the reserve currencies rise and fall in value. While we believe the dollar's role in the as the world's reserve currency will remain intact for the foreseeable future, its value will rise and fall with changes in the economic fundamentals. Since it peaks in the March 2020, the dollar has dropped about 11%, but the decline reflects the Federal Reserve expansive monetary policy. When the C-19 virus crisis hit, the Fed lowered the short-term interest rates and increased the supply of the dollars available to the foreign central banks to help case the financial conditions dating into the crisis. But however, we don't see the concerned effort by the central bank to undermine the dollar's value. In fact, a weaker dollar is generally seen as a positive for the global growth because it causes or it eases financial conditions for borrowers and especially emerging markets and countries. But finally, the dollar remains a safe haven asset during the times of the global stress, and the dollar generally moves up in investors to seek a large, liquid, and reliable place to put their money. And when the pandemic struck in the early 2020, the dollar soared to its highest level in its decades compared to a wide range of other currencies due to global demand. And that's the problem what you got. So the US dollar has dropped from its highs. See, that's what people was talking about. And they said, what do you do next? Captain James on Twitter. So, you know what I'm saying? It says having the world's reserve currency efforts the United States some privilege, and it means there is a underlying demand of the United States bounce from foreign central banks and other investors looking for the safe market, which is an investment that allows us to borrow lower rates than the world others many years ago from former President Valerie Giscard and Esting used the phrase exorbitant privilege to describe the benefits, according to the United States, from having the world's reserve currency. It is still the case today. Yeah, this is Swab. We're gonna get into it. Uh, let's see here for a minute. We're gonna copy this. We're gonna put this in the chat. And you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, this is one of the things that we it's gonna put out here and it's gonna drop this for y'all. Drop it right there. And I'm gonna see what's what. And that's what we're gonna have. We'll put it in capitalism. Yeah, I'm gonna save this link right here. So yeah, mainly the dollar is just one of the few things that we talked about. And this part two is gonna be strictly what we're going to see in the future. And some people say it ain't going to fall. It takes time. Federal Reserve's part of it's a combination of a lot of things. A lot of people they just want to deal with facts and reality. That what they're going to replace it with. See, the crypto thing is not a thing anymore. That was just a survival tactic for that time being. For those crises came in the pandemic period. So people's looking for pandemic problems and pandemic solutions and escape. So yeah, this is something to look at in the future. So we can't really rely on people looking at the wrong things and saying the war is going to determine that. No, it's not. No, it's not. According to Democrats, what they be doing a lot of stuff. And a lot of people just don't care. They just want don't give a fuck and they just want to say, hey, you over here tripping. You over here tripping. And that's what they're telling us. Quiet is kept. And that's just the bottom line that we look at. So I'm not really worried about anything. So and then what you have it is you have different points of view and people just trying to come around and just do their thing. Right. So when you look at things like that, people talk about that conspiracy, like they trying to say, that's the Schwab and all that. And the throwing of the king dollar won't be an easy feat. I'm reading from the Bloomberg right here. So we're going to read the Bloomberg.com. They said the throwing the king dollar won't be easy. Yeah. And they said it won't be an easy feat. Okay. Get out of here. There's no alternative to the world's reserve currency despite any concern or wishful thinking to the contrary. This is by Robert Burgess, March 3rd, 2022, 5 a.m. Eastern Time. So that was like last month. They said the same thing. There's another one. I have to keep that. It's another link to that. If the last dozen years to say that so has taught us anything about markets and the economy, as anything can happen, no matter how unlikely the U.S. Housing market was considered as a solid investment, as there was to become prices never failed nationality until the subprime crisis came along. But the idea that the European Union would ever come close to breaking apart of the taking of the euro with its unthinkable until Greece default. Yeah, Greece default. I remember that. And everyone knew that the inflation like that of the late 1970s was never coming back until the pandemic snarled supply chains worldwide. And that's true. It happened. So it's the natural that the sort of cottage of industry has sprung up in the last decade, or trying to anticipate the next so-called black swan event that could append on the global economy and markets. As my Bloomberg News colleagues Joe Wissenthal and Tracy Alloway do a good job explaining, there is a growing concern that perhaps Russia's invasion of Ukraine could mark the beginning of a timing point for the United States dollar, but not for the good. But the thinking is that the United States was weaponizing the dollar through the heavy financial sanctions imposed on Russia, but including preventing that the country's central bank from accessing the foreign currency reserves. As such, it's make it less and less for global reserve managers to hold the dollars for safety. But given that they could have been taken right when they are most needed, and they're right. Make no mistake, as any such more such a move away from the dollar would have earth-shattering consequences. Here we go. Let's read this part again. Making no mistake, any such move away from the dollar would have earth-shattering consequences. See, there you go. But the dollar has been the world's reserve currency since the United States and its allies agreed that the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference to peg it to the rate of $35 per ounce of the gold. According to the International Monetary Fund, the dollar's share of the global reserve stands at 59%, but far above the euro at 20.5%. After the euro, there's a steep drop to the number three slot, which is occupied by Japan yen at 5.8 83%, 5.83%, and as the world's primary reserve currency. But the United States enjoys the exorbitant privilege that goes along with that, such interest rates that are lower than they might have otherwise be, and the government being able to fund the budget deficits and perpetuity. Yeah. So it's showing you the dominant position. There it is. But to consider how difficult it is to come up with a viable alternative to the dollar, consider the Chinese yen, or the euro doesn't count, given how close the European Union came to breaking up over its debt crisis a decade ago. Plus, it's more a monetary union than a physical one. The Asian nation, which has the second largest economy after the United States, has spent a lot of time of effort over the past decade trying to make the yen a viable alternative to the dollar, but yet less than 3% of the world's foreign exchange reserves are denominated the yuan. On top of that, only about 3% of the global transactions are considered in yuan, compared with 40% for the dollar. According to the SWIFT, the messaging service that facilitates the vast majority of the money and transfers globally. Not a contender. They try to say not a contender. Benefited, yeah, you see the graph right there. They try to say it's not a contender. Yeah, it's true. Even though they can go to countries and make deals, but they're not a contender. That's the problem. People trust in it so way too much. Benefited, the benefit to holding reserves in dollars is the U.S. markets are so much deeper and more liquid than any other. At $23 trillion, the United States Treasury market is more than double the size of Japan's government bond market. And even if you wanted to buy so-called JGBs, you probably couldn't, because the Bank of Japan owns a vast majority of them, so much so that no trading is done in the JGB market on the days as of for Europe and the UK, France, and Italian and German bound markets are all less than 3 trillion in size. Foreign holdings of the United States Treasuries have soared 7.74 trillion dollars from the 1 trillion at the start of the century, according to the United States Treasury Department. As while the American politics and brand of democracy can seem messy at times, but especially lately, foreign investors do take comfort in the country's strict adherence to the rule of law, that they draw the capital from all around the world in good times and had, although global foreign direct investments flows surged 77% to an estimate 1.65 trillion in 2021. The United States experienced even bigger jump of 114% to $323 billion, according to the United Nations Conference on the Trade Development. Yeah, like it says, like on the trade development. But the dollar shared global currency reserves that slowly eroded over the years, dropping from the 73% in 2001. But the current level is still up from the low around 45% going back to the early 1960s, although the rise of the cryptocurrency offers bad actors another option to park their money out of the reach of regulators and other authorities. No country of consequence is going to attempt to park their reserves in Bitcoin. You heard that, didn't you? But that's the point. As FHN financial economist Chris Lowe wrote in this research noted to the clients on Wednesday, as long as the world doesn't suddenly see a string of bad actors launch megalo megalomaniacal attacks on their neighbors, they don't really have to worry about having their dollar assets frozen. The sanctions on Russia are extraordinary because Russia misbehaved under President Vladimir Putin. Is extraordinary, Low wrote. Of course, nothing is forever, but it can sure seem like in the foreign exchange market because of the dollar, the British pound was the world's dominant currency, having held the crown throughout the 1800s. That's 19th century. That's how we are. They try to be like the Roman Empire over here, but that's America. Until World War II, by that measure, the dollar has a long way to go before being toppled. The simple fact is that there's no alternative. There you go. There you go. This is a good one, and this is by the Bloomberg, of course. You know, some people don't like me reading this. I don't care. I don't give a shit. It's another factor why. And we're gonna go here. It's no argument or anything. So I'm gonna put this over here. And yeah, and it's just what it is. You know, you just have what you have over here. So yeah, we'll drop it in here. So what you have is people doing this thing time and time again. They talk about the conspiracies and things like that. So we're gonna get off from Bloomberg and things like that. So in that nature. And we got the balance.com. And people trying to say that, you know, bringing factual stuff. Yeah. So basically, you know, you have these things a lot, you know, just build your confidence up. So one thing I can say about it, that's the stuff you got to look at. So the dollar is a big issue. So one thing you have is people think it's gonna fall and it's gonna last forever. But one thing I can say about it, it's just like it says, like in one of those last two links I showed y'all, it talks about the history. This guy's graphs in it. You know what I'm saying? The Schwab.com, Bloomberg, I just read. And that's one of the things I can say. Yeah, this is one of the things you can see in long term in so many words. So, yeah, man, like, you know, you look at these things and you just like, all right, this is what we got here. And I'm just going to be like, all right, cool. And I'm just going to be like it right here. But that's just going to be it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really tripping on anything. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. And that's just how it is, you know. And that's just how I'm gonna keep it. So you know what I'm saying. Like I'm just here to look at the big picture and you just gotta put it out there for certain individuals to understand. So that's what you got. That's what you got to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And that's just how the dollar is going to be. And one thing I can tell y'all, this stuff is nothing, and you just got to get out there and just do it, for mainly for the sake of telling it like it is, because most people they just can be misled, and there they are. So you got to look at it from all angles, all the time, and just like say, hey, you know, we out here. So I know people don't understand, but when you deal with the dollar conspiracy, it just goes in hand in hand. So, and that's just how it's gonna be. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into it. Yeah, we're gonna get into it. So, why is the US dollar is the global currency? Okay. Global currency is one of that is accepted for the trade throughout the world, and some of the world's currencies are accepted for the most international transactions, but the most popular are the US dollar, the euro, and the yen. And another name for the global currency is the reserve currency. According to the International Monetary Fund, the United States dollar is the most popular as of the fourth quarter of 2019. This is before C19 came around, and it makes up over 60% of all known central bank foreign exchange reserves. That makes it the de facto global currency, even though it doesn't hold an official title. But the next closest reserve currency is the euro, which is factual that you mean France and other countries in Europe. But I ain't gonna get into that. That's a whole nother spiel on that. And it makes up 20% of the known central bank foreign currencies reserves. The chances of the euro becoming a world currency was damaged by the eurozone crisis. It revealed that the difficulties of the monetary union that is guided by separate political entities. That's what they're dealing with right now. Look at the French election. France is dealing with somebody's pro Putin and the other one's pro Zelensky, but that's what it is. But we ain't gonna get into that. But that's what that's about. I am watching that. Le Pen is very shaky, very shaky. Macron should win that election. That's just me personally. He's a better fit. France ain't gonna do much. They don't want no revolution. They don't want to go back to the days of the 18th century, is what they used to do. All right. The relative strength of the United States economy supports the value of the dollar, and its reason for the dollar, the most powerful currency. As of the end of 2020, the United States had $2.4 trillion in circulation. As much as half that value is estimated to be in circulation and abroad. Many of these bills are in former Soviet Union countries and Latin America. They are often used as hard currency in day-to-day transactions, which is very true. That's why people travel a lot and they go overseas and they tell you. In the foreign exchange market, the dollar rules around 90% of the foreign trading involves in United States dollars. The dollar is one of the world's 185 currencies according to International Standards Organization list, but most of these currencies are only used inside their own countries, which is factual. They use the note theoretically. Okay. Almost around 40% of the world's debt is to issue dollars as a result in foreign banks needed a lot of dollar currencies conduct business, but this has become evident in during the 2008 financial crisis. But non-American bases of 27 trillion, international liabilities dominating in foreign currencies of 18 trillion, the United States dollars, and the resort United States Federal Reserve has to increase in the dollar swap line, and that was the only way to keep the world's banks and from running out of dollars. That's true, and and it's just this is an interesting link as well. you know this is the balance.com. I'm not gonna get into it. Y'all can read the rest for yourself. So I won't get to the I won't discuss this because I ain't got that much time. I'm just gonna copy this, send y'all the link. So yeah, this is basically what I'm saying about the dollar. It's inevitable. It's no need to talk about it. Y'all know the information. Y'all smarter than that. Y'all can look this for yourself. I just put that in y'all's watch laters and whatever. We're gonna knock this off the screen, and I'm just about done with it. The topic is just it gets ridiculous after a while. So that's one thing. And it shows like some people just gonna have different things to And that's just what it is. So, and that's just what it is, you know what I'm saying? But, but that's just one thing I could say in so many words, but and you just got to look at it for what it is. So, I'm not really tripping about anything. So, and that's just it, cuz one thing I can tell people is you get what you get. And yeah, the dollar is a huge thing. Most people just get into it and they just like, hey, we're gonna be here and that's it. And that's just how you're gonna look at it many times. And but like I said, man, people think the dollar's gonna fall and they don't know whether to replace it or not. That's just big on what it is. So, and that's how I'm gonna look at it. Some people just gonna look at it like, oh man, is it gonna ever gonna fall? I say, yeah, it has time, but this country's damn near an empire. It takes a while. Let's see, the Roman Empire, it fell within. It had a lot of uses, lot of uses, lot of uses, and it's just like within. A lot of people just not gonna give up on it just right away. It's the trust of the American dollar. It's the trust of individuals to do what they do. So yeah, the trust is coming from within. When you trust something for a long time, people gotta trust it. They gotta believe it. They can't just go around and just say, "Hey, we don't trust these things long term." And like I said, the dollar conspiracy is one of the things that people talk about online, and they just like saying, "All right," And that's why I was telling about Duke the Don. Like, you got to do your research, man. Don't try to follow people spewing bullshit on the internet. You got to do the searches. You got to. There's people going to say they agree with you and they don't agree with you because it's not going to fall. It takes a lot. There's nothing to replace with. That's why Bitcoin is a no go. Nobody wants their shit to be asset free. That's why banks are not as powerful as you think. There's certain people control banks, and you're not one of those dudes. When people talk about finance online, they just need to be quiet and just let the real experts do it. And I just stay out of it, those conversations. I just talked about this one because this one is kind of like I stand on what it is. I trust physical money. I don't trust the crypto thing. That's why I don't talk about crypto streams because it's dangerous. It was good to talk about them. I'll say probably like 2015 and prior up. I'll say 2012 to 15. That was good range to talk about when it was in. But then you look at it now. When Trump left, that shit was a no go because people was on to that. People was doing content like that. Next year, it gets harder and harder for every time when people come through. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you have in so many words with these dudes. When they get on these panels, they talk about extreme new stuff, and that's just what it is. So it is what it is. So he said, "What do you think about the Watch the Water doc that dropped yesterday?" I haven't seen that documentary. It's probably interesting. And some people, they still talk about it, but I guess you're new here. So yeah, this stuff gets very interesting. Yeah, it's probably a good documentary. I might check it out. I don't know. He said, watch the water. Yeah, that's probably a good one. But it's all relative, what's going on. It's relative what's going on. I've seen many documentaries similar to that. If this is a new one, I might have to check it out and see it because if it's around, I'll check it out. But yeah, the dollar is one of the things I've heard 10 years and prior. People say it, but there's no solution of changing it, and it's the brainwashing of people. There's the trust. Do they trust in other people? Absolutely. And some people trust the dollar. They're brainwashed. It's the trust. It goes back to where this country was founded, especially on the bloodshed part, the military part. That's what I talk about. The money aspect is secondary. That's the key that builds it. But you got Congress and senators keep changing laws and fucking it up. That's why people are so fucked up in this country. You can't change everything. It takes a lot, legislation in the body. You have to have certain people to believe you. Now, these websites ain't gonna last forever. Like Google and YouTube, they gonna waste away. Because I see a pattern. I'll tell you a secret. The more fuckery streams that people do, the shit will waste away. Nobody wants to hear it because it's automatically they don't want to hear in relevance what's going on in the world. So you're going to see a lot of people talk about dumb shit and gender warring and all that stuff, but they're not going to focus on the real because everybody's keeping an eye on everybody, but it's going to be a waste of time what they're doing long term. So yeah, the dollar is basically a thing. Most people say it's a threat to society, but reality, it's just a currency that can be replaced anytime. But it takes time. It's not going to be easy to replace. I just gave y'all two links to show you. That's how I got it. I'm not going to go in depth on it too much because this is part two. Because part one, I explained that a lot of times people believed it back in the day. Now it's more like, what are you going to replace it with? Because crypto ain't the answer. Because we already seen problems and liabilities in other currencies. They all have liabilities. They all have pros and cons. The biggest con with the dollar, I will say, people have too much access. You know what I'm saying? But not everybody's gonna get all that money. You know what I'm saying? Some people get it by bloodshed. Some people get it by favors with friends. Some people get it in other areas in profession like sports and all that other stuff. And some people get it by doing certain things on the internet. You know what I'm saying? There's different outlets how you going to get it. And some people steal for that shit. People die for over that shit. That's why the dollar's so crazy. When people go crazy with the dollar, that's like when they got us off the gold standard. They just keep printing money. A lot of people ain't real, but here's the thing: they use it as a fucking tool. They use it as a fucking tool every day, and I see it all the time. But yeah, everybody talks about crypto, but is that real money though? They can shut that shit down and say, "Hey, you ain't got no physical cash." I think Information Man broke that down. He said, "Yeah, it's hard on cash." My dad said the same thing, but he's right. Since he's an auditor, he sees on both sides that it's going to fluctuate, and he ain't fair and balanced on it, but he's fair on some things that people got to learn to survive and move forward. So that's the thing. So yeah. Let's see what this person's reading about. Money equals money, eye on eye, paper, note, literally a vision board. They use it collectively consciousness and hive mind to create their utopian dream. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's basically what it is. The utopian dream of it, and that's part of it. And some people are stuck on it. And long term, it is what it is. I think most people, they just gonna look at it and be like, yeah, we're gonna have our own utopian. Everybody's got their utopian dream. We just recently talked about, I think Albert Priest talked about this guy. He says he's pro-trans, but I ain't gonna get into those people. But the gender stuff, see that right there. Who talks about that? But Alvin Priest, they're very controversial. But then they talk about the money behind, comedy and things like that. And some people look at things like that, but they don't talk about the dollar. A lot of people, I've yet to see some people's pro dollar, some people's against the dollar. I get it, but where's your alternative? You know what I'm saying? Y'all ain't going to be anarchists to take over a country. This country's done sold out a long time ago. It's just people chose the law enforcement route. That's what makes the bucks. The military, law enforcement, every other stuff, health. Then you got the basic materials like the trucking and all that stuff, the shipments, the offshoring. Heard Antoine Dale say we do a lot of stuff that's offshoring and then just replacing the worker. Yeah, technology is going to be here. That's what they think, but technology ain't always good technology because 9 out of 10, there are always going to be real physical people to control it. That's just the problem. Yeah, he said big pharma. Yeah, big pharma, all that. And what you have is people don't have no solutions. That's all it is. Basically, the solution is try invest as you can. I say don't try invest in the stock market. If you want to invest in the stock market, go ahead, go right ahead. I'm not stopping you. But the crypto thing, it's not real money. I'm telling you, just be careful what you get into. They own the people, and it is what it is. So that's how I look at it. The dollar is just another way to test people, see how they gonna survive with or without it. And most people can't survive without it. They're crazy. They'll fight you for it. They'll kill you for it. I heard stories. I said, "Damn, is that they care about that more than anything else?" But the brainwashing has been around a long time. They just put it in different forms in media, and they press you on it, and then there you are. You know what I'm saying? But that's the whole point. That's the whole point. So yeah, that's just it's basically what it is. And you look at it for what it's worth, and that's just it. So in conclusion, you have these things all the time. And when you talk about totalitarian leaders like Putin and all those guys, they're fading away. It reminds me of the Gaddafi shit. That's what it reminds me of. When he said F the US currency and all this other stuff, right? That stuff can come bite you in your ass, man. You gotta pay for what you say. In so many words. So you gotta look at things like that. We gotta understand that people gotta be careful. Like I said, man, fuck the dollar. We're gonna replace it with something. Where's y'all solution? You know what I'm saying? But that's the thing, looking at it from that perspective, it's just gonna be more and more problems in the end. So, it's just like I see it all the time. People just want to come through and they just be like, yeah, and they just do their thing. So that's how you gotta be. That's how you gotta be. And that's just how I look at it. But mostly people just gonna look at it, be like, how I'm gonna replace it with the yen, they're saying in those reports, and I say how they gonna replace it with the euro. It's very interesting. I think in European countries, the euro, I don't know which country is stable. I think France is stable. Everybody else is all right. Germany, it's a few other countries. I don't see England do anything. They're in trouble because they are very pro us, and a lot of other countries in Europe as well. Yeah, so or probably the Northern Europe countries to get money. That's a whole nother feat. Mhm. We can't eat money, water, chicken, solar energy. Next thing they'll be telling us that the next big pandemic is the bird flu. So now we got to kill your chickens, and the water is poison. Yeah, they've been poisoning water for years since before Flint. They've been doing that for years, especially in GA. Some people don't like to use the bath water as much. Some people use showers. They're using the same thing, poison and stuff like that. That's why people hardly don't take showers regularly here. I used to back in Tennessee. I mean, I take showers regularly all the time, but it's kind of like, you damn if it's like you damn if you do, damn if you don't type situations. But yeah, that's another reason they'll talk about it. And that's just one of the principles of the thing. But when you talk about it, that's one of the things that you got to look at in so many words. You got to be mindful that people are going to see for what it is. You know what I'm saying? But that's how I look at it, you know. And that's how I'm going to look at it for now on. But you see this all the time. You see this. But that's how I look at it. In so many words, spoken words, people just be like, "Hey, when the dollar's going to change anything?" But some people like that. Some people love that, you know. And that's why I just want to put out, but it's 49 minutes, 50-minute mark. So, I'm just gonna let y'all come in here. So, I'm just gonna talk about it. What time we got? We got 1:37 in the morning. Yeah, man, it is what it is. So you just gotta look at it. You just gotta look at it. and most people ain't talking about it like I am. Quiet as kept. They just look at it for what it is. And you got to look at it from so many spoken words. So I'm not really tripping off of what's going on. So, that war over there, it's not just a distraction. That's just a continuation of what's going to happen. But, like I said, Putin ain't going to die this year, whatever. We don't know that. We don't know that. It's a possibility to be like Gaddafi. It'll be the same thing. And it's a combination of a lot of things. When Biden says it's going to be a whole year, oh, the summer's going to be wild. I give it about this month. We'll see. I'm still watching. And then next month, it's gonna be a totally different ball game. The summer is gonna be incredible. It is what it is. So yeah. I don't even said people waiting for the dollar to end missed it. It already happened when us left the gold standard. Oh, I just talked about that. Yeah, that ain't why. I'm talking about people saying it's gonna fall, whatever. Yeah, people been saying that shit for years, bro. Yeah, I said that early in the stream. There's no treasury dollar, only Federal Reserve debt notes. Yeah. And what else he said? No money, just credit. Well, credit is money. It's just they print more money. It's called inflation. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. They don't care as long as they print it. People still believe in it. You can't change people's belief. That takes a lot. I mean, I get what you're saying. I've said that early in the stream. I dropped the links and I said, look, that's the thing. Is what they gonna replace it with? Not much. You know what I'm saying? But that's one of the things that you got to look at is you seeing it from that angle. So yeah, yeah, yeah. Credit can be withdrawn. Yeah, all that can be withdrawn. That's all day. I mean, people withdraw credit all the time. I do that all the time, but no, but most people will not trust no damn crypto. I'm tell you that right now. There ain't nobody trusting that shit. And shouts out the information man. He just when he said that, he's very right. My dad said the same thing, even though he's an auditor. He breaks that down very specifically what's going to happen. So, that's just a whole nother story on that. Yeah, that's how I look at it in so many words. So, you know. Yeah, all those commodities. Yeah. You say a bunch of stuff, but yeah. But that's the piece of it. And you look at it and you just like, hey man, it is what it is. And people don't want to look at those commodities like that. Gold and silver. I think I talked about that in the 39-minute mark. And then I was talking about that on this those two links that I dropped down. And yeah, all that's there, man. Like, and I was talking about that conspiracy why people say it's gonna fall. It takes a while. When a country falls within, it's going to get very bad. But people ain't ready for that. They ain't really built like that. So all the years people talking about it for decades, that shit never happened. The only way it's gonna happen is what you see internally, we're stretched in, and plus the trust of people. So another currency cannot knock it out. That's not going to happen. That's just them. They have a long way to go. So what they're going to do? They need an infrastructure like the U.S. and these private military like cultures, especially the culture of stealth and all that stuff. That's what rules this country. And basically, the military controls that, and then the money is just tied in as a buffer. That's all it is. And some people just look at it and be like, "Oh man, this is crazy. How are we going to survive all this?" I was like, you got to survive all the commodities. You know what I'm saying? But that's just the basics of society. You know what I'm saying? And you got to look at it like that. That's 9 out of 10. But yeah. I'm gonna switch this for a minute. So y'all give me a second. Yeah, but but that's one thing I can say about those commodities in so many words, but you see it right now. But the dollar conspiracy, man, we talk about it a lot. And part one, I just brought up the totalitarianism part with Putin and the things going on in Ukraine. That's an example. People rise against them. They're tired of the bullshit, man. But America's not built like that. We have our own problems in oligarchs, but we don't want to go against it. We're too busy divided. So you can't really say much in America anyway, because America is basically the entity that people don't want to hear. So, what I'm saying? But that's one of the reasons that you got to see for yourself and you got to maintain that. And that's just how it is, man. Like, people are just going to look at it for what it is and what it's worth. And that's just how I'm going to see it and how I'm going to look at it. And that's how you got to look at it in the future. Just got to look at what type of time you're on. And it just boils down to it. You'll get a feel to everything. So, yeah. Yeah. Reuters 2021. Oh, I already know about that. Yeah. Digital currency ain't gonna rule the world though. People believe in hard cash. I've been knowing about that for the past, I'll say about 5 to 10 years. Yeah, when this thing came around, it's a different story. After that '08 crash, oh, it was different. People was getting money. It was making a killing. But that's just one of the reasons that I look at it for so many words. Most people they just gonna look at it from that angle. So you know, and that's just what it is. So when you look at those angles, they just like go into it and they just like, yeah. And that's how I look at it. And one thing I can say in so many words in spoken word, people just gonna be people at the end of the day. You know, they're gonna look at things their way and how they look at it and just like, all right. And that's how I'm gonna look at it. But the dollar conspiracy, I talked about it enough. I mean, yeah, it can fall any day now, but the problem is the country is still strong because of the military aspect. The military industrial complex determines how the Federal Reserve and everybody else lives. That's just basically they're under their thumb and they're making a lot of money, a lot of killing. They probably using other metals to get rich and they don't buy into this the cash thing, the cashless society. No, they got money. They just use metals and stuff. They just have a different culture. And that's how I'm gonna look at it. But basically that's what I see at this point. When people talk about it and they get into this stuff, when they see a war like Russia and Ukraine, they go straight to economics, which is always secondary. I look at everything, not just economics. I look at everything how it got there. Money was a secondary thing. It's always happened. And that's how you're gonna look at it in the future. So we're here, people out and whatever. So yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna say so many words, but but that's it. But appreciate everybody come through. Shouts out to old boy in the chat and new guy. What's his name? Slick Sticky. Appreciate you, man. Who else came through? Tampa, as always. Appreciate you, man. As always. And what he said, yeah, Russia was no threat. They've been never been a threat. Just because they got those nukes, they ain't doing no damage. But yeah, but shouts out to the legendary Wacky World of O. Yeah, man. Yeah, I had to get it in. I had to get this one in. This is an hour long. This ain't no open discussion, no panel or anything. I just want to just say my 2 cents in about the dollar conspiracy. But yeah, it's basically you just knowing that the dollar has this undefeated ranks, and there we are. Yeah, so with that, I just want to say peace and shalom, and I'm out.